everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today I want to show you how you can paint at home following along this really gorgeous scene of an air balloon floating over sunset clouds on a really calm and happy healing day. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He's going to help me bring you this step-by-step art lesson by making sure that when I'm demonstrating a technique or when I'm creating a color mix or using a tool, you can really see what's happening with one of our robotic cameras that zooms in. If you're here for the live, be sure to put your questions all in caps. You may get your question answered during the show. If you're here on replay and you have a question, be sure and leave those in the comments. I read my questions every day. If you have something that you don't want to put in the comments, you can write us at support@theartsherpa.com. Now, this is a very beginner-focused lesson. It's got very few materials. It's got a smaller canvas. It's really ideal for all levels of painter. If that's of interest to you, it's part of a course, the beginner acrylic painting course, where I teach beginners everything they need to know to start painting and get them their first time painting. But if you're just here for the air balloon, that's cool too. You can just follow along and paint that as well. When we come back, we're going to jump right on in and do our first step. Now remember, these are broken up into steps. Everything's time stamped and chapter marked in the description below. And there is a matching mini book that comes out 70 days after the show. So if you need written down instructions, we have all the stuff. The things, John.
The things.
To help you guys do a painting, we have all of them and they're free. So let's come back and we'll begin the painting. In the first step, I'm going to be demonstrating one of the initial gradations that as a new painter you're going to want to be able to do, which is to take a transition from one color to another. Now this particular one is pretty beginner friendly because it's sort of a light blue to a darker blue. I'm going to take my bright brush, that's this nice square one here. This is a number 10 black pearl. I'm going to take this brush and load up some white paint at first. You'll notice that I'm flipping the brush over and pulling the paint from the outside. I'm going to come over and get a little bit of blue. I don't want a very dark blue because I want to go from a light color to a dark color. Now I'm going to come across the bottom and I'm going to paint up. It's true that I have a lot of clouds that are going to be down here at the bottom, but we're learning how to do the ombre as well. So sometimes these things are helpful in and of themselves, you know?
Yeah.
And continue going up here. This paint is wet. Acrylic painting blends when the color that you're working into is still wet. So if I want to work into this light color, it needs to still be wet. If you're having any trouble or you need more information about that, because this is probably the most challenging thing for beginners, is blending paint. Because acrylic dries a little bit fast.
Yeah. Takes practice.
It does. And you're probably kind of at this stage going, oh, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. So you're maybe not painting faster than the acrylic is drying. And continue. I can bring that down. I'm going to blend back down. I've got a pretty nice transition between this light blue and my middle blue. I want a slightly darker color at the very, very top. I get my brush wet. Bring a little blue into my brush. A little white into the brush. And you can see, there we go. So what we should have is a sky that's blue up at the top, pretty noticeably, and getting lighter and lighter as it goes down. Getting a little middle here, a little more evened out. I think I'm being fussy, but you know. Now, if this felt super challenging and you ended up with like 3 distinct stripes of color or any of those things, I have a video, beginner acrylic painting techniques, everything you need to know. And if you go to the section that's time stamped for blending, I have the correction for the 3 colors. And also some more blending tips. And then if that isn't helping, I have a whole video just focused on 6 ways to blend acrylic like oils. So I do have the resources for you to help you through. Let's dry this thoroughly now before we go on to the next step. Now I'm going to put in my first layer of clouds. These are going to introduce you to the concept of the fact that clouds have sort of an irregular shape. They're not too technique based. And once you get the shape, you can really, really handle it. I'm going to take my number 4 round and some blue paint. Now I'm going to draw my cloud in with blue so you can really see it. It's okay for you to use a chalk tool if you want to be able to erase and change your mind. But I think you can handle it. We're going to come up from the top, say about 2 fingers down. Let's make a little blue mark. We've planted the seed for a cloud. It's going to come into about there. So I'm going to come up, a little curl, make a slightly smaller curl, and a really smaller curl. Come back up. Okay.
All right.
And then I'm going to come underneath. I'm going to bring little runs up. And I'm just going to very carefully paint that all in. This is a distant cloud. Now, how does this teach you the concept of cloud? Well, one of the things that's hard to understand as a beginner is when clouds are not white. They can be, but that's actually not their most common color. Usually they're a range of values and colors from the sky around them and the light that's being reflected.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They can be quite dark, especially at sunset.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that they don't make little cotton ball shapes.
Not always.
No, very rarely. It's not that they can't, they just don't often do it. I'm going to come here. This is about a hand down. I'm kind of towards the center. Come up. I like to make different little curls. And I do that because clouds just tend to have weird little forms, and it's fun to play with that. A curl underneath. Curl underneath. If you like these clouds, I've got a mermaid that has a nighttime version of this.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I'm going to use a bigger brush. I'm going to put my round down because it's a little fussy to paint the whole area inside the cloud with the round, because the round isn't that big of a brush. So you can see I'm going to use this 1/2 inch angle brush, and that's going to let me come inside the lines that I've made, but paint a better little layer of paint, and that's going to ease some of my difficulties. Sometimes in painting, knowing how to size up or size down your brush can make a very big difference in your art experience. Now, these types of clouds, interestingly enough, really were pioneered by the poster painting from like the 1920s. So if you look at old kind of travel poster art and you want to see more styles of artwork like this, check that out, because they have to flatten those images and do this type of visual communication. And that actual art form came out of Japan, I believe. So, kind of interesting. I've got a balloon here coming in. I'll finish this out just in case, but I've got a balloon. It's going to be kind of layering over this cloud. So I don't want to get too fussy with it. I'll just say, hey, it finishes, but that's where it is. Now I'm going to get to my round again because it is better at sort of sketching and thinking about. And I'm going to come up to the side over here. If you think the middle of the canvas. Middle. A little kind of inward curl. I like to make kind of larger and smaller because I don't want to repeat shapes if I don't have to. Now here at the center, I'm going to come down so I can make sure that my clouds are kind of being interesting here. They're interesting clouds.
Very interesting.
Coming over from the right-hand side. I want some space between this cloud and this one, but I'm definitely going to have a very interesting little cloud form coming down there. So that's pretty. That's pretty all right.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is a very big space, and I'm going to want to kind of maybe blue it all up.
Okay.
And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want the clouds in front of it to be darker. And by layering their colors over the blue, it'll help them be deeper, even if my paint's transparent.
Gotcha.
Now I'll just turn my canvas to make it easy for me. I'm just going to paint that in. I'm just painting inside the lines. And that might feel a little frustrating to you to have gone from the light to the dark, but that's how you get that perfect little peak out there.
That's going to be important later when we get the sun in there, huh?
Yeah, it becomes really important later, and it's really hard for you guys to get it, and sometimes you got to practice those skills. Also, you'll find after you've been painting for a while that acrylic paint tends to stick to acrylic paint better than any surface. It just really loves to stick to itself, so sometimes getting a coat, even a white coat of paint on a canvas that is causing you any difficulty, can make a big difference. Just making sure I've got a nice coating. There we're doing.
Yeah.
You can go across or down. At this stage, that directionality isn't as big of a deal.
Just getting a good coverage.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I've got a nice coverage because we've got to do up here where it might be peeking out. I'm going to be a little bit kind of like light. Okay, so what we're going to do here is this is looking pretty good. We're going to dry this and come back and I'll show you the next layer. So this step is pretty much exactly like the last step, except we're hitting a second coat of blue paint. And we're doing that to make sure that our canvas doesn't look streaky. Blue can be a temperamental color. And with beginner paintings, a lot of times I like to demo these steps because it can make a big difference in your outcome. And also help prevent your frustration. I'm taking my bright again. And you can see I'm just coming back with my blue.
Nice.
And it does give a lot more depth.
Oh, yeah. I hear the directionality is helping, huh?
Well, by being a little bit neat and tidy and kind of keeping that going, it just is smoothing out my clouds. And later when I put that next coat on, yeah, it's going to make it feel a little even, more even. That's looking pretty good. Rinse that out. Now up here, up top, right, in these up high clouds, I'm going to take my 1/2 inch angle and I might get a little white into this mix now. I don't want it to be light like the background, but I do want these to be like a hair lighter than these clouds here. You see that? Just a hair lighter. It's not a big differential. That'll just give our painting a nice graphic look, which is going to be really satisfying to us at home, to you, to me, to everybody. We're going to dry this again. I know, dry. But we're going to dry and put on the next layer of clouds. So I'm going to create another interesting layer of cloud bank coming closer to us. And I want it to be darker than the cloud behind it. Now what's great is this third layer has got a nice depth from the clouds that we've already created. I'm going to take my round and I'm going to load up just a little bit of red into my blue until it takes it to kind of a darker indigo. It's not purple, but it is darker than the cloud behind it. And I'm going to come over towards the left-hand side a little bit.
All right.
And I'm going to make a little round. We're going to make a little bank of clouds maybe coming up here. They're doing their little interesting bit, right? Being interesting little clouds. Just curls coming down on the right-hand side. You can see I'm going curl and then another one next to it.
Uh-huh.
Loading up the tip of the brush. Kind of want a little lump.
It is nice.
All right. Very interesting little cloud bank. I'm trying to randomize my shapes. Think about it. I'm going to go ahead and get my half-inch angle, half-inch angle. There's no round to it, just a half-inch angle. And I'm going to make a little bit of the dark blue color again, which is, you can see just a shade darker. Now, some of what makes this work so well, right, is that we have these great highlights coming through, also kind of gradating across from yellow through orange, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I highly challenge you to, again, look up online vintage travel posters. Sometimes artists, we look towards artists from the past for solutions, artists who maybe had to face the challenges of a different media like gouache, which is what many of those travel posters were done in. Also a fast drying, very matte type of medium. And sometimes in your own art world, you can get solutions to problems that you're having by looking back.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I think sometimes we get to feeling like all wisdom is in the modern world, especially with Google and the way that all the information is available to us 7/24. We never have to not know things if we don't want to not know them.
Yeah.
Never have to be, confused or uninformed in any way. You don't have to. I think about it a lot. Like you can read the papers of artists who are doing their masters, in history, art history, and read what, exciting things they're thinking without being in their courses. So much stuff is just available to us now. I'm just, keeping that depth up. That depth is really helpful to us.
Mm-hmm.
Does not have to be perfect on this layer in any way. This is one where, you can come through. Now, one thing that I can do is I can come in with my blue and a little bit of white. And I'm going to make a blue that's just a little bit lighter. And if I have an area where I want to kind of pull this dark form, see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
I can do that as well, and then I'll just brush very lightly. This only works is if it's a close color to the blue behind it, right? Otherwise, it's just a white layer.
Mm.
But if you're having trouble telling those two apart, that would be a fix for that. Is the value just slightly lighter? You can really see it there. But I'm able to blend this out because of the closeness.
Mm-hmm.
Once I have it in, I can come back with another layer. And just brush that across.
It's a nice little blend there.
Yeah. Not necessary unless this is more of a troubleshooting.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice it also kind of gives me a nice crisp line on the cloud underneath. But I'm just coming here very lightly blending it out. You can use a finger blend if I'm having any trouble with my brush blend. You see that?
Yeah.
Should be smooth. Allow everything to dry. When we come back, I'll show you the front layer clouds. So in this front layer, I've got my darkest, most purple cloud, and I'm going to bring a little blue and my red together until I get a spot on purple. Now, I do like this purple to bias just a little bit to the red. It'll be kind of a red purple, and I am going to put a small amount of white into it so you can really see that color. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So in our mind's eye, we think of it as darker, but it isn't really that much darker. It feels like that chromatically. And I come here at the lower front. And make a small little circle there. Kind of working that out.
Huh. I like the layered cloud effect.
Yeah, you know what else it reminds me of? Sets, old timey sets where the waves went like this. See, again, look back.
Yep.
Sometimes artists from the past have solved your problems. You know. Now I'm going to take my bright, because it's so much bigger, right? And get some more of the red purple on there. And paint the front cloud. So it is purple, but it's just biased a little bit red instead of a little bit blue. This would be biased more blue, right?
Huh.
Set design is a very great art form to look at and reference for techniques and concepts. Because they have to do in very few values a lot of work. Right? So with very little, they have to do a lot. That looks pretty good. So now we have that 3 banks. 3 banks. Now to do anything else though, all 3 banks need to be thoroughly dry. I'll bet you're over it by now, but just trust me, don't skip the drying. Definitely dry. If you don't have a hairdryer, you can use an accordion fan. Remember folding fans as a kid?
Yeah.
Where you fold the paper 2 directions? You could use a fan like that. I've had to do that in the past. All right, but let's try it. Come back and I'll show you how to get the highlights started. The first step of the highlight is to actually put some white back. We're going to get clean water. Good time to change your water in our round brush. Make sure all the colors are our round brush. And we're going to thin some white paint, right, with a little bit of water. That's a couple of drops worked into the paint to thin it out. If you have craft paint, you don't have to thin it. Your paint's already thin. Don't worry about that. This is just if you've got heavy body paint, you have to thin a little bit to get it to flow off the brush. Now, let's put a couple counter, kind of like little circles, on the bottom of these. So what we have going on here, guys, is that the light is going to be highlighting the tops of these and the underneath of those, and kind of let you know where the sun is in the sky. So when we come back with colors, it just really does a cool deal. Now I'm going to come up from here, making some small and big loops. Come into this one and kind of come up.
Oh, I like that.
Isn't it fun?
Yeah.
John is always so encouraging. I don't know what I would do without John's encouragement. Because honestly, I think of the time I painted without John cheering me on in the studio. Like, we would just come by, like, occasionally, be like, good job. But, like, now all the time, like, the whole painting, he's like, great job. I'm like, thank you. I'm going to bring a little bit of highlight to the top of this. Now, I will curl these in a bit. And the reason that I like to curl them in a bit, yeah, we just brought that down some.
Yeah.
Sketching that on. So it creates, even within each bank, a layer within the bank. And then it helps us kind of create our little cumulus form. Now, when we paint clouds, you know, more technique-wise, for sure, you know, we keep this in mind, but we also think about where they're soft, where they're hard, you know, they're little soft, fluffy edges, they're little hard edges, and that's kind of what we're fighting with. But this, we don't have to. And this is a lot of fun in my mind. If you're cloud frustrated, these clouds might be just the ticket. Because you can do kind of decorative, you know, posters, pop art style clouds. Bring a little bank down. Okay, so we have some nice little thoughtful little banks. There's some definite drama there. Drama. Oh, I want so much drama in my painting and no drama in my life. It's so weird. Do you know what I had to explain to Spider the other day, John? Spider is my son. He's my middle child. I had to explain to Spider what a soap opera was. And what I discovered is that is really hard to explain if you have no context for it. It's like, and then because like, and the way I explained it, he kept going, then is The Simpsons a soap opera?
Well, yes, it is.
No. It's a serial, but it's not a soap opera.
Wow.
So then I got to wondering, like, what exactly is the definition?
I'm sure.
No, there's got to be one, right?
Oh, it's now that we have access to the internet, I'm sure. It's just a question away from misinformation.
So he kind of came over from the left-hand side and brought in another little bank. Made it interesting, didn't we?
Did?
Yeah, it was just so funny because I was like, well, I'm like, it's very dramatic. I'm like, the characters never leave the show. They're born, grow up, and die on the show. Like, they never leave. I'm like, you could be a baby born on the set and you're going to be a star. And then I started to try to explain Kelly Ripa to him. And he's just looking at me like, you know where I got it? I was like, it's like a novella. And then he's like, oh, okay.
He got that one.
He got that. And then he's like, are the Korean shows you watch a soap opera? I'm like, some of them might be. But I feel like they're romantic comedies, and I'm going to go with that. I don't think they really are because you've got to have that sort of continuity. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the Luke and Laura storyline.
Uh-huh.
And I'm so glad I don't have to explain to my hyper vigilant teen who's got like social justice in their heart, the Luke and Laura storyline. Those of you that know, would not fly today. No, sirree, Bob. Would not. But at the time, we didn't know. We got sucked in. So weird how the world changes.
It is.
I think it's good it changes. I'm not uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
I think it's better. No. Bring some over here. Like to layer these in a bit, And from perhaps the side. Look at that.
I love it. That corridor looks awesome.
It is a bit of a corridor, isn't it? There we go. So we have, you could be done here, right?
You could
This is
be.
your blue sky layers, but we're going to come in and put a little extra drama when we come back. Now that you've lined all your clouds and created layer, and you've had a little laugh or two with us, we'll come back and we'll add the color that creates that sunset effect. So we're going to do these forwards. I'm going to begin by taking my yellow and adding a little white to it. Right? So kind of creating a little ducky color. Ducky, ducky, ducky. And I'm going to go over my upward clouds with this. Now what's happened is yellows, even in a very expensive paint, tends to be a super transparent color. And if I put it over blue, it's going to glaze and create a green. And I want it to be a bright yellow. So the only way to get that is to do this little white layer first. Now this is a clue to all kinds of challenges that you as a beginner might have in your painting, right? Where have you ever had that experience where you're trying to paint something that should be bright and colorful and it just keeps dimming and all the things that you're correcting for just aren't working? Maybe that your paint is transparent and it's glazing. So it's not giving you the effect you expect. Isn't that cool? I think it's so cool, John.
That is really cool.
I know he doesn't think it's cool, but he's
I
so
do.
encouraging. All of the first bank of blue cloud is the yellow. And then we go to the slightly darker bank, we'll get into an orange, like a yellow orange. And then when we get into this bank, we'll get into a red orange. So in a way, we are following that sunset rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of working from the left to the right. Because that's my right is my dominant hand, and by doing that, I am not bringing my hand through wet paint. If you were left-handed, you could do an opposing strategy to keep your hand out of the wet paint. And you can come across like this, whereas I'm gonna come across like this. I've been asked recently to, like, where I can, sprinkle in some tips for that. That's my tip. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's a good tip.
I like this. I like the yellow.
Yeah, John really liked this painting.
I do.
He was like, this I love. For me, it was maybe, I really was into the dragonfly. But this, I'm glad I did this. I've done some hot air balloons in the past. And I think the one I liked before this was probably the Valentine's Day one,
Uh-huh.
the pink one. But I might like this better now than even that one.
Really?
Yeah, I've had some I did not like that I did.
I really like this one.
And it's okay because YouTube agrees. YouTube did not like it either. Not YouTube Inc., YouTube the viewing community. They're like, it's all right. Sometimes I think like I'll go back and repaint paintings where I'm like not satisfied with them.
Mm-hmm.
How would I do it differently? After looking back across time. There we go. Got some yellow going. Look at those yellow bright kind of things. Now here we've got to do yellow orange. So yellow orange, I'm going to take a little red out so I've got no blue in it. And I'll take the red to my yellow. And as you can see, it doesn't take very much red, does it?
No.
To start tinting the yellow. And so I'm going to make a nice amount of an orange that's a little more yellow than red. Yellow orange. Just kind of same.
Yeah. I like how the sort of yellow intensifies there.
Yeah, it does just make everything a little more pop. Kind of see some of that glazing in some of these areas when you're painting, and you'll go, oh, yeah, it does go pretty transparent. The white is kind of necessary. It is. It's so necessary.
Helps make it pop.
Yeah, it does keep that vibrancy. And that way I'm not relying on a pyro or cadmium red or orange to get it, but I'm using the temperament of the paint against itself.
I shall use your temperament against you.
Yes. All right. Doing really good. This front one, as we mentioned, now it's going to be a red orange. See how we go?
Yeah.
It is, right? Orange, but it's now much more biased to the red. Just brush over the top. You've got this. And what you've got to be is patient. Patient with your painting. Be patient with your painting.
Yeah.
Right? Don't rush it. Don't push it along before it's ready. And don't push yourself. I would push you guys if it would help you paint better. I would be like, you will paint this painting. You will do it. But it doesn't. It just makes everybody stressed. And it doesn't improve the artwork in any way. So I don't do it.
No.
No. It's not that I don't have it in me. Ask my kids. I do. But it just doesn't help you guys. It doesn't help you reach your potential. It's why we don't do a lot of critique. That doesn't mean I don't give advice, that I don't give actionable things that you can do to work on your art. But I don't specifically critique because all that can do at this stage is demoralize you.
Mm-hmm.
And pointlessly. just I mean, we all love Simon Cowell, but that wouldn't be a very good teacher. No matter how entertaining as a judge.
Yeah.
That is. That would be a tough teacher to have. Right? Okay, so there's this one little finishing moment after all this. But guess what? What's the secret word of the day? Dry. Dry. It's gotta be dry. So let's dry it, and I'll come back and show you that last little highlight that makes this go, whoa. Whoa! So now that we have this, we know that we're going to have a little bit of sunlight happening. And what I can do is I can come down and actually create another little corridor of light. So I'm going to take my yellow and a lot of white. And on the tops of some of these little forms, I'm going to add a little highlight. Come back. I don't do it full on everything. It's a little bit. It's like the ghost pepper. A little.
Oh.
This is probably actually not a good analogy because you want to use a lot less ghost pepper than I'm using color. But these are just little highlights. Now, here's what's an interesting thing. When you do a more two-hoot, more complicated painting with me, you will find we do a lot of these same things. We just do them in a more focused, intensive little way. Skills are not intrinsically different. Rinsing out, rinsing out. Now I'm going to come here and get a lot more yellow into that mix. Okay if there's a little white into it, but I want a lot more yellow. Oh, what? Yeah, I know, right?
That's cool. I like the orange.
So on top of, we have these kind of very distinctive sunset values. We also have hot spots.
Yeah.
Where sunlight has caught our clouds and is making them very vibrant.
It really is. Super awesome.
Drama. Back into our orange. We'll get our bright orange going, right?
Yep.
This is our yellow orange. Yeah, like if you go look at my acrylic April 2021 and you see the drama sunset skies, it's a basic thought process that we're using. We're just spending a little more time on them, using a few extra tools.
Yeah. Those little extra highlights there, those make a big difference.
They're the wow factor.
The dimensionality.
It is the dimensionality. It makes these clouds seem very special, whether you're doing like blended stratus clouds with cumulus and a dramatic radial horizontal lighting scheme, or this adorable set. These things still work across the board. Now, when I come back, we're going to start to put in our hot air balloon. Now I've got to sketch in my hot air balloon. And at home, you might want to use a kid's chalk. So if you have something you want to change, you can change your mind. I'm also going to show you another trick. If I tried to draw the hot air balloon in the furthest position from where I'm sitting, it would be very hard to create symmetry. So I'm actually going to turn my canvas upside down for a second. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to use a T-square ruler. And I'm going to come here. And I'll go ahead and use I think you can see my watercolor pencil. I'm going to make a line. That's going to help me see my hot air balloon.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to come across the top and I'm going to try to make a line that's about the same curve. So it'll be like a smile.
Okay.
Right. Make this little pull down. It's like a teardrop.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes getting a slightly different viewpoint on something, a different perspective, is really all you need to see it better. Now I'm going to come here and just make sure that I've got a little basket for the peoples. There's going to be little ropes coming in to hold the basket. Once I have all that in, and you can use the traceable if this drawing is like not your favorite. I might round my top a little bit more than I did. See how it's nice?
Yeah.
Now my watercolor pencil isn't going to bleed through my paint. It's not going to stay. It's removable with water, and so that gives me a nice kind of I changed my mind moment. It's a little harder to change your mind with black paint. I'm not saying it's not doable. And again, in my technique videos and brushstroke videos, we talk about fixing mistakes. And this is one of them in the technique videos, is how to fix that kind of mistake. But let's not do it today. Let's just, what is it they say? Measure twice, cut once.
Mm-hmm. I'm lucky if I can measure twice and cut once. Normally I measure 4 or 5 times and cut twice.
This is true. I've been through remodeling projects. But, you know, we can always hope. I measure no times because I'm not cutting anything. I'm afraid of the saw. If we had a stop saw, I wouldn't be afraid, but I'm afraid of like the regular saws.
Me too.
So much.
Have to be careful with them.
You do. Safety. Okay, I'm pretty good.
Yep.
Now, when we have that all shaped in the way we like it, we're going to take our black paint with our 1/2 inch angle and just paint it in.
Oh, okay.
Guess what we got to do after this?
What?
Dry it.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, because you really don't want the black everywhere. And I need to chalk some lines so I can get the highlights that make the kind of rainbow balloon effect, which I really, really liked on this one. I just love a rainbow balloon. Everybody from Santa Fe is like, yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty in the sky. I like it too. All right, I'm going to dry this thoroughly. So I'm going to use my chalk tool on this, and that's just so that you guys can kind of see what I'm thinking. I'm going to make a little bit of a segment. I think this is like a segment of an orange. See how it's wider in the center and it tapers at the end? And that's going to help me divide my balloon. Just need to know where that is.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to take my, I think I'll take my round because it'll give me some control. And much like the clouds, guess what we have to do?
Try them.
In the center of this, I'm going to add a little bit of a white line. The white line becomes thickest at the bend of the balloon and lightest at the top and bottom. If you can't quite get that, don't stress on it. It's just a goal. It's just going to help the ribs of the cloud seem more ribby.
All right.
Not cloud, the balloon.
Hot air balloon. Now you like those.
Very much. Hot air balloons?
Yeah.
And it's weird. I have a fear of heights, as some of you guys know, but the hot air balloons don't trigger it. I have no idea what about them is somehow different than the step ladder in my kitchen, but it is. Isn't that neat how it makes that patterning?
It really is.
This works for every little balloon that you've got to do, so feel good about the technique.
It's the balloon technique.
It's the balloon technique. I'm going to come on the basket. I'm going to just make sure that one side of the basket is light and can come back. I know this next part's going to shock you.
Mm.
Kind of dry. So this is going really well, and we're going to do a similar thing that we did to our clouds, which is to take our balloon through a sunset range of rainbow. I'm going to begin with my yellow,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to come over and I'm going to glaze over the white. It's okay if it goes into the dark, right? And the dark is going to show a little bit because that's going to create kind of the shape of the balloon. Yeah, that's doing. You can even come in and finger blend if you want. Finger blending is only okay if you're not using cadmium pigment, like not hue, but the real pigment.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to be finger blending with your CAD, but regular paints like what I'm using now, it's okay to do. Finger painting, finger blending. I'm coming in and doing that orange. Remember our orange?
Yeah.
Yellow orange. Look at that.
Yeah.
Let's get a darker orange going. That's looking so good.
Really is.
Let me get into my red.
The gradation is really pretty.
Yeah, I love it. It's like what's in the clouds is popping up on the balloon. Super fun. I'm going to take a little bit of my red and some blue. And we're going to start doing some purple. And remember, this purple is more red biased, right?
Yeah.
It can take a second to find it, but once you find it, you'll know it. A little bit more blue. And a little bit more blue.
Mm.
So that's how you get that whole transit. Oh, so on the basket,
Yep.
I do a little bit of red, orange, yellow. Well, yellow, orange, red.
Mm-hmm.
The backwards of what I said. So that it too has a bit of that coolness to it. So here we are. And then we're going to have to, you're going to laugh, right? Try it.
Try it.
Try it. Try it. You must try it. And we'll come back and we'll add the highlights. We're not bad. We could say we were done, but we did that extra step on the clouds. So it could be nice to do that extra step on our balloon. I'm going to take a little bit of my white and go into my yellow and make that lighter yellow white, right? That ducky yellow.
Yeah.
Let's come in the center here and add a little bit of that highlight. Just a little bit at the bend. Then I'm going to come and get some pure yellow. And just at the bend, add a little bit of that. And then I'm going to come in and get some yellow orange. See what we're doing?
Yeah.
And then we're going to get some orange. That's so cool. Highlight right. Like little highlights. And get some red. And I might let this be a little bit of a, I'm going to add a little yellow to it just so it kind of pops on the purple. Like that. A little bit of highlight.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes on this backside, I've got to add a little white to it to get it to happen here too.
Right. Just a little
Mm-hmm.
contrasty.
So that's how we get the highlight across the expanse of the balloon. It's just a pretty little touch that you can do, and it just, I think, makes a big impact. When we come back, we'll do the sun and the birds, and then we're going to be done, which is, I'm kind of sad. I'm sad. Sad we're going to be done.
Oh.
I really enjoyed spending this
This
time
has
with
been
you.
nice.
I enjoyed spending this time with you too, and you. I was originally saying that, but I also, you, also, my husband, also.
Awkward.
Okay. The mantra, dry it. We'll come back. We could be good here. We could be done. But why would we do that?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to come in and I'm going to make a little bit of kind of like a starburst coming out the side of the balloon. I'm going to take a little bit of my white and yellow and I'm going to come on the lower half of the balloon there and make a little dot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to drag out a light radial stroke. Now, how this stroke works, guys, is I have my greatest pressure at the beginning and I release. Right? There's a dry brush on it. I don't have a lot of water on there, so then it breaks open and dry brushes at the end of the stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Is it necessary? I don't know. But it called to me, so we're doing it.
I like it. Sparkles.
I'm going to try to make sure I always kind of come from the same starting point
Mm-hmm.
when I'm making this so that it really has that sunburst feel. Now I'm going to come in with some pure yellow a couple places and add that pure yellow. Not everywhere, but just some places.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, it is.
I'm like looking for shirts. I'm like, was I crazy when I did this? Okay. So it's coming out. It's bursting off the side. The sun's peeking out. Oh, it's just so pretty. I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to wipe it off. I rinse it out, I wipe it off, and then I'm going to come right in the center.
Mm.
Put a little kind of sun.
Yep.
Now I'm not trying to make a big dot, and it's kind of like what it is that when you see the sun out there, a lot of times it has a very kind of almost white hot center. It's like light. Right? I'm going to rinse out. Now, as long as this is dry to the touch, I can come back and do the black. If it's not dry, you will have to dry it at home. Mine is dry,
Mm.
so I don't have to.
All right.
But if you have to, you should. I'm going to get my
Because
black paint.
today we dry.
I'm going to load a little bit on the tip of my brush here. Right? A little bit, little bit, little bit. I'm going to make sure there's no hidden water drops. And I'm going to come up here. And the brush stroke comes down. There's a bend to the point. Back up and curl. This is just in case you hadn't done that before.
Mm.
I'm going to do one that's maybe a little more flattened out and far away. A little more flattened out and far away. If they're smaller, then they're further. Sometimes you put the V a little more up.
Yeah.
This one I'll kind of flatten out. That's how I get the different bird flying positions with a little V. It's a little bit different than the M you grew up with, but same kind of concept. Like, you're not unfamiliar with it. It just might have been a minute since you were like, I'm making M's for birds. This is the slightly more refined M's for birds. I'm going to add a little bit of white to that red mix over there so that I can sign. I want to sign in a color that is in my painting so that the signature shows but doesn't take away or detract. I wouldn't want to sign with a color that wasn't even present, like a lime green. And I'm going to sign so you can read my signature, but I'm not going to sign so large that it takes over the whole painting. All right.
That turned out nice.
That's great. Guys, thank you for spending this time with me. When we come back, I'm going to tell you what you should be doing next. That was a very good painting session. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you feel a little bit restored and affirmed in your creative process. I love sharing this lesson with you. I would like to invite you to the next lesson, so stay till the end of the video as I'll give you a peek to the next lesson in the series that you could do. And it's gonna be pretty.
Yep.
Hopefully, if you just came here because you love hot air balloons and you did this painting with me, you're kind of interested in that beginner acrylic painting course. It's free. It's up all year. You can do it anytime. If you're here part of that, congratulations. You've done another project and you're one step closer to being a certified one-hoop painter.
Certified.
Certified. That doesn't mean there's a pass or fail. It just means that you've completed the journey to understand some basic things about painting so you can have a better time in your own studio. And guys, be sure to tell your friends. Share on social media, tag us in. I'd love to see your paintings in group and online. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.
It's about the connection. Now put it on your canvas and let it be. We're having an art party. Why don't you come with me? Straight from the hot party. Now everybody let it be. No need for words like can't or ain't. Just grab your brushes, come on, let's paint. Don't think too hard, it's easy. Plus, it's a lot of fun.